When we are talking about God, when we always have to remember we are talking about pure spiritual world, then not about matter. I remind you, when you are still watching, when you should have agreed this. So please don't fall into one of the main faults of materialist thinking. A materialist may say, okay, if there's any God, then he must be somewhere in this material universe. But this, of course, would lead to the idea either when universe ends, even any God will die. Or even as we can't detect him anywhere in the universe, though he doesn't exist. No, I think quite the opposite will be right. Yeah, this idea is still very popular. The great old man creating beings and building things into a place beyond him. But I think also this idea is almost as childish as the materialist one. Let's conclude from the beginning. Now, here again, of course, the circle is a very old common symbol for the whole unity perfection. But first, at once a trap of misunderstanding the symbol concerning God. Because what's that outside? Was it there before God? Is it independent? Would God ever put his creation into something that is not from him? And to the second, by the way, God, it's not a he nor a her. God created duality, but itself is not under the law of duality. So, forgot this idea. The very beginning. Maybe it's according to the Kabbalistic meaning of Ein Sof, but please don't take that for granted. God is and was always, but it's a little bit silly talk because remember, because creation of space, time and matter, there was no time. And again, another trap here. The sheet may lead to the idea God has borders, but this is a problem of my not endless paper and not a problem of God, of course. God has no borders at all. There is nowhere any beyond God. Probably, I think God is of endless dimensions. There is no place for any nothing. It doesn't exist. But then God decided to separate. So, okay, it seems like last picture, but now it means it's reverse. God's all and everywhere as before, but here, the center, the encircled in the middle, that's the creation, the space-time, and where matter is set. Universe is not really apart from God or beyond from God, it's inside of him in a special way. Inside of God. Again, God is everywhere, no borders, endless dimensions. Universe, space-time, inside. Now, if we could put a kind of testing mind in these two different new regions, here, of course, outside the circle, the testing mind would say, all around me is God. He's inside me, everywhere. But if we put the testing mind here, into the circle, into the realm of matter, then the testing mind would say, God's not here. He's another area. Or even in some cases, the testing mind could say, I can't feel God at all here. He's not here. Maybe he's nowhere. I don't know. I repeat, God's endless. Endless dimensions. Everywhere. Always. And space-time universe is inside in a special way. And there's no nothing. Nothing never ever exists. That's the idea for any server. Universe, the realm of matter, enclosed inside God in a special way, and there's a kind of border between, of course. Okay, now to universe. Do you agree with Big Bang Theory in general? Okay, fine. But now we have the general questions. How did it all start? What was before the Big Bang? And why is not nothing? Why is not nothing? Now, science itself tells you, of course, we fail in exploring periods before Big Bang or near to it. Some say, because of some quantum mechanic, suddenly say it was out of nothing. No, but exactly that is never ever possible. It's strictly against energy preservation, and I think this is the strongest law we ever have in physics. So, from nothing comes nothing. No, even quantum theory can't rule out that. It's not possible. And by the way, quantum theory is a lacking theory. But that proved other. It was year 2000, Hans Sallhofer, Sackgasse Quantenphysik. From nothing comes nothing. Now, some say the Big Bang was the creation, something in pure spiritual world made something. God created space, time and matter and universe within. And I think that makes sense. We'll see later. Now to the very, very critical who would prefer to say matter was ever since. There are just endless years of Big Bangs again and again. The question still stands. Why is not nothing? Now, where is universe going to? When we accept what science says, that universe is about some 14 billion years old and that's expanding, so no steady state, then we have the two common universe models, the Friedmann models. Either expansion slows down by gravity, and in the end it all turns back to another Big Bang. Or expansion will continue till infinity. So, if expansion should slow down and return to another Big Bang, then of course we have the dilemma when we can't prove the last Big Bang was it the first, or are there just endless years of Big Bangs? If this is right, then I think any new Big Bang would create always a somehow similar universe and never a really completely different from our own. But I myself believe it really was first Big Bang, and before there was no space-time at all. But now research of course will have found out expansion will not just go on. We even have an acceleration of expansion. And this is really hard to understand at all because this scenario seems to require an overall negative mass. But even antimatter has, of course, positive mass and gravitation, we know. So some propose mysterious dark matter or dark forces or want back Einstein's cosmological constant. Now here I propose another, my own universe model, the model of full self-curved spacetime. The strength of a curvature, of course, may vary with time. This is to say, all place matter can ever go, or any kind of effect can ever go, is like in a bubble. The higher dimensions, can't be reached by any matter-like means. I have to repeat, can't be reached by any matter-like means. For me, this assumption of a completely self-curved space-time would explain really a lot. This geometry may be caused alone by the gravity according to general relativity, or it's because of a framework beyond. Such a framework could be described by Einstein's cosmological constant, but not to make a steady-state universe. And I don't use any dark matter and dark forces, things I don't believe in them. Otherwise, maybe my model, it seems to look a little bit like Hawkins' no-limit model, but I don't use imaginary time. Now let's take a look at the different universe models according to pendulum analogy. Of course, Friedman too, who always expanding model can't be described right with pendulum analogy. It would go like that way. But the other, the slowing down and return model, goes like pendulum. We start with Big Bang. Universe expands, we are here. Maybe it goes slower and slower and slower to first point, and then returns, shrinking phase, and another Big Bang. So, that's Friedman 1. But if we have indeed an acceleration of expansion, then pendulum analogy seems to fail. But not if we now use the full self-curved universe model. You see, if there's enough speed of expansion in the beginning, it goes further and further and then up to the overturning point. In self-curved model, this means universe has reached its maximum possible expansion ever. The area before the turning point, movements and gravity pull opposite directions, of course, so as we like to expect. But now, maybe we are here, and we look from past to present. We are trapped in our three-dimensional world. We can't see the higher dimensions. It's all embedded in the higher dimensions. So we see a seemingly further, now accelerated expansion. But if we could see it all in full, we would find in reality an already shrinking universe with accelerated shrinking pace. Because here is a point when movement and gravity pull same direction. This is the difference. This is seemingly a little bit strange, of course, but this is just because of the assumed self-curved geometry. Some, like Hawkins, may argue, oh, there will be no more life possible in shrinking period. But why that? I think only if one says that time span from Big Bang to there is too long. But why? Anyway, maybe just our attitude towards the meaning of expansion and shrinking is definitely wrong. Let's repeat my new full self-curved universe model. We start with first Big Bang. Maybe this period we can't observe. We have a turning point, universe has reached its maximum expansion. And we are here. And here we observe a seemingly further accelerated expansion, but in reality, indeed, it is already accelerated shrinking towards possible next Big Bang. We just go round and round and round. Of course, this simple one-dimensional pendulum analogy is a little bit too simple to show my model right. I think we do better with a globe analogy. Now, in this analogy, this globe is for our three-dimensional world. You can go here, around, everywhere, but only that self-curved surface. You can go out or in. The surface in this analogy is for our self-curved world. Now, next. This self-curved universe model has 4 cases with up to 3 states. I will show now with diagram. Here, case 1. If expansion movement is quasi weak even early and gravity strong, then we have a quasi-Friedmann case. And only state 1. First expansion and then shrinking. Case 2. If movements are somewhat fierce, first it seems to behave like Friedmann case 2, the always expanding model, but exactly because of a now supposed self-curved geometry, this will never happen. While state 1, we have a real expanding movement everywhere in universe. But finally, galaxies fill all space given. Then with a special ratio between movements and gravity, just then movements come to a standstill because of gravity. But in same moment, as all space is filled with matter, then the sum of all gravity force at any point will become zero because of a perfect self-curved overall geometry. Thus, we would even have a final steady state case here, but I suppose it's very unstable. Case 3a. If movements are even fiercer than in last case, a period of galaxy crossing the turning point begins. Universe reached full possible intention throughout the whole space given by the special geometry. But now movements go on into region with other galaxies still moving towards turning point. I think in most cases, whilst that bypassing, most galaxies won't collide because normally there's a lot of space between them. But then, if movements are not too strong against gravity, sooner or later state 2 comes to an end and all movement wends towards turning point back. All mass will gather there. Maybe then in the end of case 3a there's finally another Big Bang. Case 3b. If movements are really fierce in the beginning, so as many think, then universe reaches full state 2. When majority of overall mass is concentrated in the model's upper region, that's full state 2, in more or less wide parts within the model's lower part of universe, a seemingly increasing pace of seemingly going on expansion could be observed. And that's what we observe. But finally, if movements are really fierce against gravity as supposed in case 3b, galaxy bypassing will be finished. All movements will go model downwards then, concentrating all mass more and more in model's lower part. That is to say, then same direction as gravity. This is state 3 beginning, an overall pure shrinking of universe, until finally probably new Big Bang in model's starting point A. Now here again the different cases in T diagram. Case 1, the quasi-Friedmann model. First, fast expansion, then slowing down, and finally movements turn back, universe is shrinking again. Case 2, if movements are fast enough, just enough to fill the whole space with galaxies, then movements come to a standstill in the end, and we would reach a final quasi-steady state. And here, case 3a and b, it's much more dynamic, you see. First, we have real expansion as in the other cases, but now at the turning point, galaxies are still moving. But maybe state 1 here more or less is just the early inflationary period of universe, which cannot be observed. And the real history of galaxies maybe start even as late as with state 2, maybe. In state 2, we now have the galaxy overcrossing in more or less parts of the universe. And then the seemingly accelerated expansion is observed. And we are somewhere here. This state 2 may last several billion years. But in the end, in late state 2, almost everywhere is galaxy overcrossing. It's a difficult part. Within we may have a quasi-steady state phase. But in the end, in state 3, in any case, all mass will concentrate towards a final point. Here I will finish with Schauberger, an obscure early 20th century Austrian researcher. You have false idea of movement. We don't need explosion or extension, that is to say causal thinking. The clue is implosion, that is to say final thinking. And so I ask, why do we ever have the idea expansion is life-giving and shrinking is death-bringing? Maybe it's exactly the contrary. Next video, I tend to talk about time traveling, possible or not, and about a matriarchal Genesis story.